I'd like to call the work session to order for September 8th, 2025. We lead the roll call.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you. We have two items on the agenda tonight. I would like to remind council that staff will be pausing every so often to answer any questions. The first item is fiscal year 2026 payment management projects and payment management program update. Please go ahead and introduce yourself for those that may be listening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sumit Mohan. I'm the Public Works Director, and joining me today is Brian Harwell, who is our Streets Superintendent. Tonight, we'll present the details of two major items. First, we'll present the FY 2026 pavement management projects that we have planned this year. Because of the process improvements that Finance Department made in their budget presentations to the Council, you have already approved some of the city's high-dollar projects, including some of these streets maintenance projects. In fact, all of these streets maintenance projects. So we will not be asking you to approve these again. The second part of the presentation will be about our pavement management philosophy. So this is in response to Council's questions back in FY 2025 when you asked us, are we doing enough? Is our funding in the right place? So we heard you loud and clear, and really we appreciate your consideration and concerns. So with that, we did some real deep dive into analysis into the details of pavement management, and we'll be presenting some of those findings with you tonight. And so Brian will walk us through the FY 2026 projects first. But before I hand the mic to him, I do want to convey my appreciation to all of you for having increased our base budget funding from 3.7 million, which had been level for many years, to 4.3 million this year, which really helped us stay afloat this year. With that, I'll give the mic to Brian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With that 4.3 million approved budget, we will be completing pavement treatments on 55 lane miles of roadway. We will utilize several treatments: liquid road, micro seal, and a mill and overlay. In addition to these treatments, we will also complete a condition assessment of our full pavement network. This assessment will also include our full inventory of ADA ramps. I will now briefly explain what these treatments are. This first example is on Festival Way and is a liquid road treatment. This product is fiber reinforced seal coat. On Harrison Street, next to the recreation campus, we have an example of a micro seal. This seals the road and reintroduces friction to the surface. And finally, we have Estrella Parkway as an example of a mill and overlay. While the first two treatments were examples of preservation, this is a rehabilitation, and it's a major project where 2 inches of asphalt is milled from the surface and replaced with new asphalt. Now, we will look at where these treatments are being applied. In this first map, north of the I-10, we have two projects being completed in the Sedea and Palm Valley 1 communities. On Palm Valley Boulevard in orange, we will be applying a micro seal. You'll see within the purple streets is an orange road. That's Palm Valley Boulevard. In purple, we'll be applying a liquid road. In this map, we will be applying three treatments south of the I-10. In orange, we will again apply a micro seal, this time to the roads around the Goodyear Spring Training Facility. In purple, liquid road will be applied to roads in Canyon Trails, Estrella Vista, and Cerevel Village. Finally, in green, we will be completing a mill and overlay of Loma Linda Boulevard from Central Ave to La Jolla Boulevard. In Estrella Mountain Ranch, we will apply a micro seal to Estrella Parkway from Elliott Road to just south of Wolfpack Way, and also on Mountain Vista Road from Willis Road to 183rd Avenue. And we will apply liquid road to the Mesquite Highlands neighborhood.
Well, thank you, Brian. Mayor and Council, now we want to share with you what the future holds for our streets and our pavement management program. These are the assets that we are responsible for maintaining in the Streets Division of Public Works Department, and you will see it's quite an impressive list. 1,156 lane miles of paved roadway, 360,000 linear feet of sidewalk, curb, and gutter, 12,000 ramps, 27 bridges, and 72 lane miles of unpaved roadways. Now, Brian will talk about how we maintain this massive infrastructure here in the city of Goodyear.
To really answer the question regarding how are we doing maintenance-wise, it all goes back to this pavement condition index. PCI is the aggregate measure of the quality and condition of all the city's streets and is a number between 1 and 100 assigned to represent the condition of a section of the pavement. This chart represents PCI trajectory over each of the last 10 years and shows our continued improvement. Here in Goodyear, we've made it a performance metric that our PCI should be between 76 and 78. In FY 2016, our PCI was 69.8. And in our most recent calculation in FY 25, that number is 75.4. Most notable in this chart is the steady increase in the city's PCI, and that it stayed relatively stable for 4 recent years. And now in 2025, you see us dropping, and that's where we're going to focus on tonight. We rate our road conditions based on these 4 criteria. And we do this once every 3 years for arterials and every 6 years for residentials. This fall, our contractor will complete a full condition assessment on our entire network of streets. In this process, we utilize the latest technology to obtain objective measurements of our roadway condition. Routine inspections are necessary and beneficial, however, they can be subjective. Therefore, we perform these scheduled assessments to maintain objective data. Inflation has been a fact of life over the past few years. Here are the costs of typical treatments from back in 2020. This shows the increase over the last 6 years. For example, in 2020, 500 square yards of microseal cost us $1.1 million to apply. Today, that same project will cost $1.9 million. From a percentage standpoint, that's a 68% rise in cost. How does that impact our ability to maintain our streets? The cost to treat 132 lane miles in 2020 now buys us just 47 lane miles today. The yellow bars in this graph show our funding over the last 7 years. Since 2022, it has stayed steady until this year when we received an increase to $4.3 million. However, as council noted, our level funding combined with cost increases have resulted in fewer lane miles treated every year. You see that steady decline on this chart. We have 1,156 lane miles in the city. Because our treatments typically last 7 to 10 years, we should be treating 100 plus lane miles per year. Currently, we are simply not able to do this.
Thank you, Brian. Mayor and Council, this particular slide, this is our reality check. If our funding does not change, then the number of our PCI will continue to go down in the coming 4 to 5 years, down to 68. I realize Council wants to know what we will do to reverse this trend to bring us in the preferred green range. This basically will require additional funding, and we are going to work with the finance department during the next budget cycle process to include an increase in funding in FY 2027 so as to keep our streets in a condition that our residents have come to expect. It's not all bad news though. With the support of council, city staff have taken action outside of the pavement management program. This is one example. Last December, council approved Goodyear's pavement cut ordinance. This ensures that any cuts made into our pavement are restored to as good or better condition than what the original condition of the roadway was before the cuts were made. In this example of a recent project, you see a large swath of smooth pavement. Without this pavement cut ordinance, you would have seen a quilt work of patches of repair, which undermines the structural integrity of the pavement. So this new ordinance is already having a great impact and will continue to improve our PCI in the long run. As we mentioned, for now, we have got the FY 2026 pavement management program to work on. Regarding the future funding, like I said, we'll work with finance to incorporate this into the next year's budget cycle. We just want to ensure that you are okay with our approach. With that, we are available to answer any questions for you.
Ready?
Yes.
Anybody want? Go ahead, Trey.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just say on the last part, I look forward to the budget discussions as we get into the fall and seeing what we can do. I did have a question, though, when it came to some of the work being done. What is the timeline usually for specifically, my question relates to the micro seal and how long that may last per length, or how long would a disruption to a road be regarding a micro seal on some of our roads like Estrella Parkway or Palm Valley Boulevard?
Mayor, Councilmember Terry, thank you for the question. So generally, depending on the road, so Estrella Parkway, for instance, it's a six lane road. Mm-hmm. They'll do one lane in each direction at a time. So you can usually expect 1 mile of that road to last a week. So it's about 3 weeks for the section that we're doing. And that is currently scheduled to take place in the spring. And we'll coordinate that with spring break for the school.
Okay, that's where I was going with my question, because I know Estrella High School down there, traffic's leaves a lot to be desired at times, but hopefully they can, the school district down there can get the funding to expand their ingress and egress. But I want to make sure we weren't piling on to that, if at all possible, if we could coordinate that timing with spring break or some sort of break to alleviate any further concerns there with traffic. But that was my main issue when looking at the map, wanted to make sure that was being taken care of. Other than that, I don't have anything else, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is really important for our city. Really, with the everybody drives on our roads here, the visitors, people that come through the city. So, having adequate roads is really important, I think, for our residents to have. So, I appreciate the plan that you're going to bring back and look at the budget, what that's going to look like to continue having good roads and streets in the city. And then just talking about timing with everything else too. And I know you mentioned the ballpark. I just want to verify that we're not doing that during spring training, for example, which it sounds like you've already thought that through, especially with the Estrella and things like that on spring break. So just to be cognizant of what's going on when we're doing road repairs or road sealants and things like that. But thank you for bringing it. I'm looking forward to looking into budgeting this a little better. Thank you.
Thank you.
You go ahead.
My question is, how do you know if you're how do you test our roads frequently to see the depth of them, or do you just wait till we have a pothole, or how do you know that when we're at 70 or 60 or whatever? Do you do this monthly, maybe? Probably not.
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell. No, we do this full in-depth assessment every 3 and 6 years.
Oh,
So every 3 years for arterials, and then every 6 years, we add the residentials in with that.
Would you have the ability, if we have an issue with a street, that you can respond to it? We don't have to wait for 3 years for you to figure it out?
We do.
If
So we do
think
intermittent.
that our roads are breaking down for the truck traffic or whatever reason it might be?
So we do intermittent inspections
Okay.
annually as well. So those are windshield inspections where our inspector will drive every street at least once a year and assess the condition. Again, that's a subjective nature.
Sure,
And so
yeah.
that's subsidized by the actual objective assessment done every 3 and 6 years.
Well, we have a wonderful record that we don't have any potholes and that we are very aggressive in taking care of our streets. So we appreciate all that y'all do to keep our streets safe for our residents.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you. This is very good and very comprehensive. I've been following this since I was sitting over there so I'm a little bit familiar with it. But I see there's one mill and overlay, and that looks like that's the most expensive one. How do you determine that that's what you're going to do for that particular road?
Mayor, Council, Councilmember Beckles. So part of that assessment is it creates a database in our system that tells us the condition of each road. And so each year we assess all of our roadways based on the most critical needs first. And so at that point, we start to look at the budget, and then we try to group treatments together and apply as much of one product as we can as we get a better cost, the more treatment we put down. So it's all done through that assessment. That assessment comes back, and that'll tell us what those PCI numbers are. And so we'll look for those lowest numbers first and try to fix the most critical roads.
Okay. And are roads prepared and ready for Buc-ee's?
We are prepared and we are ready for Buc-ee's.
Go ahead, Laura.
That's a good question. We've been talking about this for years since I've been on council, and definitely there's been an impact once inflation hit and not being able to cover. So I'm glad that there was additional funds this year to try to get more miles. It's interesting. I think we take for granted a little bit the quality of our streets till we go somewhere else and the streets are terrible, and just appreciate the investment we make because it reflects how we feel about our city. The streets are clean, they're well maintained. It shows that we take care of our infrastructure. And unfortunately with infrastructure, you can pay now or you can pay later, but you're always going to have to pay. And I would like to see what it would take to get us up to our preferred 100 miles per year, back up to that status as you look into the budget. So anyway, thank you for the conversation about this.
We appreciate that.
Well, with that, again, just want to piggyback on what Laura mentioned. You drive through other cities, and I really appreciate the job that you're doing. We've got good roads, but I think it's important, as you had mentioned, you can't let it slide. You let it slide, you get down, and then you pay more to try to get it back up to where you are. So I'm looking forward to what you present to us to try to make sure we get that. And unfortunately, I know that you're hitting against the wall on some of these only because the cost, that 60-some, the numbers you were throwing up there are off the charts, and unfortunately, we got to deal with that as well. So again, I appreciate all the work that you're doing and looking forward to the budget next time. Okay, thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity, Mayor and Council.
You're welcome. Our last item is the fiscal year 2026 Strategic Plan Public Transit Funding and Service Levels Update. If you would, just please introduce yourself for the people that are listening in.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Steve Cinto, City Engineer. And with me tonight, I have Christine McMurdy. She's our coordinator that manages all of our transit services for the city. And tonight we'll be providing an update to Council on our fiscal year 26 strategic plan item, Public Transit, Evaluate Funding and Service Levels. Okay, so on the agenda this evening, we'll give you an overview of all of the public transit services available in Goodyear, sort of a Transit 101 for our newest council members and a refresher for the rest, as it's been a while since we've given you an update on this. Then we'll touch on their respective funding sources, and finally give a more in-depth update on our microtransit service, WeRide, which was the focal point of this item when it was added to the strategic plan. So when this was originally put in the plan, we were within the first year of the pilot, and now we have significantly more history, and we're going to share where we are today in 2025. So again, just providing an update this evening to Council, and we're looking for any feedback and here to answer any of your questions. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Christine, who will walk through the details.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll start with our transit facilities. On the right is the Goodyear Park and Ride, which turns 15 years old on December 10th. It's the largest park and ride in the West Valley and the only one in the West Valley that offers restrooms for the commuters and the bus operators. Commuters use the platform on the west side of the security room, which is the building with the windows you see there, to board Express Route 562 to downtown Phoenix, and the platform on the east side of the security building is used as a transfer point for WeRide customers that want to travel between Goodyear and Avondale. Designed and constructed with federal funds, the city is obligated to maintain the facility in a state of good repair for its lifetime. Ongoing maintenance of the park and ride is funded with Arizona lottery funds, and annual maintenance costs the city about $24,000. There are 25 bus shelters located around Central Goodyear that are owned and maintained by Outfront Media. The city receives $15,000 of revenue annually from the advertising on these shelters. In addition to the bus shelter advertising, the city contracts with Clear Channel to advertise on the digital billboard located just south of the park and ride lot. The revenue from the advertising must be used for transit because the billboard was built on land purchased by the city with FTA funds. The revenue from the advertisements brings in approximately $125,000 annually. So now we'll move on to our bus services. Service on Route 3 runs east and west along Van Buren Street from 4th Street and La Canada Boulevard to the Phoenix Zoo. The service operates on weekdays every 30 minutes, and on Saturdays, the service operates every 60 minutes. There is no Sunday service. Service on Route 17 runs east and west along McDowell Road from Pebble Creek Parkway to Pima Road in Scottsdale. The service operates on weekdays every 20 to 40 minutes during peak service hours and every 40 minutes during off-peak service hours. On Saturdays, the service operates every 60 minutes, and there is no Sunday service. Both Route 3 and Route 17 are fully funded by Proposition 400, the half-cent regional transportation tax that is ending at the end of this year and being replaced by Proposition 479, which also includes a transit element. The policies for Proposition 479 are still in development. Route 562 is a limited stop express commuter bus that operates on weekdays only from the Goodyear Park and Ride to 17th Avenue and Jefferson Street, which is the state capitol complex in downtown Phoenix. This is also where commuters can transfer to the light rail. The express service operates 3 trips in the eastbound direction in the morning and 3 trips west in the afternoon. This service is also fully funded by Proposition 400. So now we'll move on to our 2 paratransit services. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires public transit agencies that provide fixed route bus service to also provide paratransit service within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route bus. That's the darker blue shaded section on the map. To qualify for ADA service, there's an eligibility determination process that considers an individual's disability and functional ability to perform all tasks required to independently access, board, ride, and deboard from a fixed route bus. The level of service provided for a qualified ADA passenger is required to be comparable to that available on a fixed route bus. The hours and days of operation must be the same, and service must be scheduled at least 1 day in advance of a travel date. The trip is shared, so your destination and arrival time will be factored by other passengers on board. Proposition 400 provides a small amount of the tax to offset some of our dollar ride costs, but not all of it. Ride Choice was created by Valley Metro to offer ADA customers more flexible options and a wider range of choices for customers. Ride Choice offers ADA customers access to a network of transportation providers, including rideshare services like Uber, Lyft, taxis, and other wheelchair-accessible vehicles. This service also allows you to ride alone. You are not sharing your ride, so you're going straight to your destination. Since Goodyear adopted the program in 2019, ridership on Ride Choice has grown, and Dial-A-Ride ridership has remained pretty flat for the last 2 years. This isn't surprising considering the geographic limitation of Dial-A-Ride while Ride Choice is available citywide. In addition to being able to ride alone, the fare on Ride Choice is $1 cheaper than Dial-A-Ride, and there are bulk trip purchase options that allow riders to go further outside Goodyear without that 3/4 mile federally mandated routing requirement. Ride Choice was created after Proposition 400, so staff uses general fund to cover the cost of this service. And so onto our newest service, which is microtransit. WeRide is an on-demand rideshare service offering trips to and from fixed points within a specific 17 square mile service area in central Goodyear. Transportation is provided in minivans, which are more agile in master plan communities, And we have a larger Dodge ProMaster to accommodate larger mobility devices for our ADA passengers. The service operates on weekdays from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. An account is required to book a trip, which can be set up through the mobile app or by contacting the WeRide Dispatch Center. Trips can be booked up to 6 days in advance. The dots on the service area map represent pickup and drop-off points, which we call virtual stops. In the larger master plan communities, these stops are usually at community mailboxes. When we pick up or drop off at businesses, we place the stop in an ADA space closest to the front door. The fare is $2 for the general public and $1 for seniors, veterans, persons with a disability, students and children 12 years old and younger. The fare can be paid in the app with a credit card or with exact cash on board. So far, I've talked about what our transit services are and described our facilities and assets and how the city manages these operations. Now I'm going to explain how we pay for them. I mentioned earlier that Proposition 400 fully funds fixed routes 3, 17, and Express Route 562, so that is all covered. Valley Metro charges local member agencies for paratransit and ride choice services based on ridership. There is no way to know with certainty how much ridership there will be on these services, so Valley Metro provides an estimate in their IGA with Goodyear based on historical ridership. At the end of the fiscal year, Valley Metro reconciles their estimates against actual ridership, and the city either pays the difference or receives a refund. Microtransit is not included in Proposition 400, so the total operating cost is borne by the city. Staff was able to secure FTA grants to launch WeRide as a pilot, but FTA does not offer federal funds for ongoing transit operations. I mentioned earlier that we use Arizona Lottery funds to provide ongoing maintenance at the Park and Ride, but for capital improvements, there are FTA grants available. We've used those grants in the past to replace the bicycle lockers and install a camera system for an additional layer of security at the facility. So now we'll focus on WeRide, and we'll start with a look back at why the city implemented microtransit service. Between 2021 and early 2022, the City Council received the results of 3 studies that all had considerable public input from our residents that identified a common issue in Goodyear: the need to improve mobility for residents. In June 2021, the council received the results of the National Community Survey from Polco. Under the section on mobility, they highlighted that at least 6 in 10 respondents rated enhancements to local public transit services as essential or very important. In December 2021, the council received the results of the Community and Neighborhood Services Master Plan, which highlighted that Goodyear's vulnerable residents needed flexible transit and transportation that supports getting to and from work, with the ability to make multiple stops for childcare and basic retail needs. The master plan emphasized that Goodyear's vulnerable residents needed transit to access education and training opportunities and the opportunity to take advantage of recreation, social, and civic engagement. And in January 2022, the council accepted the Avondale-Goodyear Transit Study, which examined existing transit services, population and employment conditions, and projected future growth. And this was the study that introduced the potential of microtransit as a transit solution for Goodyear. Which leads us to WeRide today. The graph you see is the result of an in-app survey of our current ridership. Over 1 month, we asked them what the purpose of their trip was on WeRide. It appears even from this limited sample that WeRide is addressing the recommendations in the studies. And the performance by the contractor has remained pretty high throughout our contract. Reviewing the metrics on the right, our customers are being picked up and dropped off on time. We have regular passengers and we're adding new passengers. Over half of the rides are shared, and we have a lot of very satisfied customers that continue to rate the service highly. The service is working because the 17 square mile zone has the right balance of demographics, which includes population density, age distribution, and income levels. The travel patterns of these trips include trip generators like schools, healthcare, employment hubs, grocery stores, and retail. When we combine all of these factors, we get outcomes like this: 56,976 trips meeting the needs of this diverse population of Goodyear residents keeping their tax dollars in Goodyear. On demand is convenience. This is the big benefit from microtransit. Once we know where to put the service, we add technology to enable the demand, creating the flexibility that our customers are looking for, which is why the Uber and Lyfts of the world have been so successful. The choice of when to travel is in the customer's hands, not a static bus schedule. The list you see is just the top 15 locations. In addition to these top trips, which include employers like Amazon and Factor 75, our residents are taking WeRide to medical centers, the Chewy Distribution Center, KPS Global, FedEx, Quetico, and other employers. There are also stops for basic retail that is all over the zone, with Walmart, Target, Fry's, and Safeway being some of our top trip generators. And we needed stops for education, recreation, social, and civic engagement. This is the first year that EMCC and Desert Edge are at the top of our list, and our own rec center is number 5 and number 6, and trips to GSQ and our new restaurants are in the top 25. So looking ahead, there is change for us coming in transit services, and we are already working on how we maintain the success of WeRide. Fiscal year 26 is the 4th year of our 5-year contract. I've been working with my counterpart in Avondale and with Valley Metro to evaluate how and whether Valley Metro can integrate WeRide service. Microtransit operations are very similar to how Ride Choice operates, so we believe there's an opportunity to transition the service very possibly at a lower cost. We are just starting that conversation and expect to have more information next year, which gives us an opportunity to evaluate where we can grow the service to duplicate this success. And for WeRide, I expect a very busy fiscal year 26 with the addition of Trader Joe's and Buc-ee's in the existing zone. And before I turn the presentation back over to Steve, I do want to thank Mayor and Council for your trust and for your authorization to try this experiment. The feedback from our ridership speaks volumes about why WeRide works for them. So thank you. Steve?
Thanks, Christine. So a final thought as we wrap up, going back to Proposition 479. Earlier, Christine mentioned that MAG is still developing the guidelines for Prop 479, and the policy development will continue into the next year, 2026. We believe the guidelines for fixed route bus service will change based on this, but it's too early to tell exactly how that's going to impact Goodyear. So more to come on that as information becomes available. And now that concludes our presentation, and we'd be interested in your feedback or happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, before I open up to the others, there was an issue there in the past where you'd have some customers, because you got to use the exact money or the credit card, right? And you had a couple that say, hey, I don't have the exact change. Are you still having that issue?
Not as often, thank you, Mayor. Not as often. We have a policy, in most cases, we allow the person to board, and the driver records that the person is boarding without exact change, and we advise them to please ensure that next time they have their fare. And that is recorded so that in the future, that same person boarding the vehicle is going to be expected to have the exact change. And that's on a case-by-case basis as to whether we continue to provide the service. But in most cases, we will go ahead and provide the service.
If they do it the second time, what happens?
It depends, but in most cases, we tell them that we can do it one more time, and then the customer service at our WeRide location will contact that person later, send an email, follow up through a text message, and just advise them that we can't do this any further after the 2 trips. They're pretty much going to have to make sure that they board with exact change or use the app.
The credit card. Yeah, the only reason why I ask is because the price is so reasonable, there's no reason for anybody doing that, you know, especially when I saw some of your things where they're going to high school
Right.
and whatever. $1, even with gas the way it is now, there's no way they can run it at that cost. So, again, just keep us kind of apprised on that, because I suspect it may be some of the same people, you know, trying to do some of that stuff, so.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the comment. It is something that we talk about. We have a monthly meeting with all the
Okay.
partner cities, and we review that kind of data. We're not seeing it nearly as much as we did in the first 2 years because, like I said, we'll reach out to them in multiple ways, to make sure they understand that we're going to have to refuse their next trip if they are not able to provide exact change on board or through the app.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that's better, because I know when we were down there, that was one of the key issues they were talking about. With that, go ahead and open up. Anybody? Trey?
Appreciate it, Mayor. You had mentioned Prop 400 transitioning into Prop 479, and you said maybe next year we may have an idea on the fixed bus lanes. I know the We Ride contract's slightly different, and that goes to 27. I just wanted to get a sense if we feel pretty confident we will have that 479 plan before we make any major changes, whether it be absorbing We Ride into, like you said, some sort of Valley Metro micro transit or something like that. We have a pretty good sense that we'll have that before we'd be forced to make any major changes on that.
Mayor, Councilmember Terry, yes, we will. I'm sure of it. I've also been advised that at least for fiscal year 27, we will be continuing service on Route 17 and Route 3, covered by the tax.
Okay, and then just kind of a question, probably going to turn more into a comment. Actually, it's just, as we get closer to that, there is probably one other metric I'd be interested. I see the 56,000 rides completed, or I'd be interested in knowing how many unique users we have in the program. Just something to keep tabs on, if at all possible. I assume if we're tracking through the app, that's probably something you can find. I don't need it now unless you know it off the top of your head. But as we go forward in discussing kind of the future, what the future of this may look like, that's a metric I'd be interested in seeing.
Okay. Mayor, Councilmember Terry, when you say unique, new to the service?
Just how many different people are using them, and if there is a way we can, are they Goodyear residents? Because I know we cover Avondale as well. So, or We Ride covers parts of Avondale as well. So how many Goodyear residents, and then how many unique Goodyear residents are using the program? So if I use it, say myself and Councilmember Kano, we take 12 trips, but 11 of them were me. It's really only 2 unique users. That's the number that I'm trying to get at, is how many unique riders do we have using this program?
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
That's all? Anybody else? Vicki? No? Okay. No, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to us. Looking at slide 13, the integrated with Valley Metro with We Ride. When do we think that's gonna potentially come to fruition?
Mayor,
Extra
Councilmember
funding.
Hampton, we don't know. We feel very enthusiastic about the potential. The opportunity is, so Valley Metro has actually brought on at their expense a consultant that is going to work with us and with Valley Metro to see where we can combine the service to ensure the same level of quality. That is our number one concern. Number 2 is cost. But we want to make sure that it's almost transparent to the customer as to whether we're providing it through the current contractor versus Valley Metro providing it. Now, the study is just kicking off. I expect to have more information before summer of 26. That's about the best I can tell you right now because we haven't even started. But we are compelled very much to work with them because the Valley Metro is combining all of their on-demand services, that being Dial-A-Ride and Ride Choice, and they're using the technology company that we use for We Ride. And that was through a completely competitive process. So it was just luck, I guess, that they chose the same company we use. There's a lot of synergies, and the reason I say we expect to bring this in at a lower cost is because scales. You're looking at a larger group of customers that may be able to benefit and reduce our overall price.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic, because it is a great program. I mean, I think I'm the only council member still lives in that zone, so I use it. So it's really great service. I mean, it's really convenient. So it's interesting to see. I mean, I realize people will be catching on to it more, so you can see that the exponential growth on there, and almost doubling, more than doubling, I think, from year to year there. So yeah, it's a great program. And can you remind me, just a curiosity question, what's the youngest age someone can hop on there unaccompanied?
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, 12 years old can ride alone. Under 12, they need to have a guardian with them.
An 18-year-old?
18.
Or could have a,
Yes.
their high school sibling?
Old, yeah, we're fortunate in that we haven't really had to police it much. We are not seeing young people board the vehicle. If the operator has a concern, then they'll reach out to customer service at our We Ride facility and get some input on that. But it's 12 years and younger, under 12 years has to have a guardian with them. And we usually look for 16 and older.
Okay, I'm just curious. I have 3 kids, and I think they almost all use it here, so I'm just curious.
glad to hear it.
But yeah, no, I like that we have, this is all directed by our citizens and the surveys that we did and their needs and their wants and desires. So trying to create different programs that will help meet those needs of our citizens getting around town, I think is really great to be able to provide that to them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more the numbers of how the budget and everything that's going to work out. But thank you so much.
Benita?
I'm trying to formulate my question, my thoughts. So if you integrate with Valley Metro, does that service area expand?
Mayor, Councilmember Beckles, we're going to see if they're able to match our operating cost. And that's really the big question, right? We want to be careful about how we do this. And because we've had so much success in that middle area, we are convinced that we need to do an analysis of the demographics to have a better idea of where that ridership is. So I'll give you an example. I've asked our provider in the past for estimates on what expansion looks like for certain areas. They will send me a big block. It'll just be like, for instance, we stop at Cotton Lane right now. So when I say West Goodyear, they're going to take us all the way out to Citrus, and then, they're going to give me this big fat block. But I've got to take a little knife to that and say, okay, where are the lower income, or where are the single vehicle, where are the age groups that we're looking for, where are the activity centers, where are they going, where do they want to go. There's a lot of analysis involved to make sure that we are only providing the service where it is truly needed, because we sure don't want drivers in vans waiting for a call. So we're looking toward the fact that if we can bring the service over to Valley Metro, and if they can absorb that same level of quality and bring the cost down, that is going to open up the potential for us to look at other areas of Goodyear and see where maybe we can add that ridership and give that same resource to those people.
I was just wondering, because we are moving a little bit more west. We have some more apartments that are
Yes.
out that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Multifamily is a big draw. We also have a very big separation, a geographic separation between the ballpark and Estrella Mountain Ranch. And that's another thing that we factor. So there's again, I've looked at this for the last 3 years. There's a couple of areas that we really need to dig deeper. Thank you. You're welcome.
Vicki?
I love the fact of keeping the tax dollars in Goodyear. That's the most important thing, so we're not giving that away. But what I want to ask, because it is the money, and I want to try to keep We Ride, because I know we had talked about maybe discontinuing that plan, and I'm hoping we don't have to. So do you think that, you said something about grants. There are grants available for this. Have we started applying for those? Do we know what we're going to apply for?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Gillis. This has been kind of challenging. So I mentioned that FTA will not fund operating. So a bus going down the road, that's generating cost. FTA will not give you grants for that.
Right.
When we got the pilot, it was because we were trying a new service in an area that did not have transit.
Right.
That's an awesome reason for FTA to fund a grant.
Right.
Where we are now is we would have to identify special classes of individuals, and I have done that with the help of Vice Mayor, who actually did reach out to the Federal Transit Administration to see why our allocation for seniors and disabled for this region is so low.
Right.
And that was, thank you again, a very worthwhile conversation. We don't have grants from FTA for operating, but there is money available if we provide data on seniors and disabled that we are transporting.
Okay.
We're being careful right now. Again, I mentioned that that pot of funds is low. And if we were to compete for that money with other nonprofit agencies that also transport seniors and disabled, then we're kind of taking what little money is available away from them when they could use it for those services and we won't have to provide their transportation. So it's a balance right now. I've started reporting our We Ride ridership data to FTA, and this is where I asked Vice Mayor for assistance. We want to make sure they know that there is new transit service in this part of the region that would benefit from having that additional assistance, that additional financial assistance to transport more seniors and more disabled. So there is one funding source that I am still trying to get through. We're waiting for that pot of money to increase, and once it does, we'll get it. Now, the one grant that I did get through that funding source, we requested $131,000 because that's how many seniors and disabled we transport in 1 year. We got $13,000. That's how little, it's a competitive process. We're competing with other providers. We have to be careful about how we do that. And that will come to you in a consent item, probably in October, to approve that pass-through from the city of Phoenix. By the way, that's the other factor. That's the reason why grants are getting challenging is because FTA has been doged. And so there's a whole bunch of new people that are being trained to do those jobs that, again, provide service to us. So that grant took 2 years to get here. It normally only takes a matter of months. So that's the other challenge right now with trying to get federal money is it's taking longer, definitely more difficult, lots more rules, but that doesn't mean we don't go after it.
Right.
I did mention too that there are FTA grants available for capital improvements at the Park and Ride. That will continue. We don't want to use local general fund to make improvements to a regional transit facility. So that's why we focus on using as much other money, which is why I pointed out the advertising revenue, as we can to try to support that facility, keep it running so that everybody continues to use it. I hope that's the answer to your
I've
question.
got one more question.
Okay.
How many senior citizens do we have as opposed? It looked
I
like the
have that
highest
number.
was. It looked like the highest
So
was.
this is fiscal year 25 only. 8,638 is seniors 60 and over or veterans.
Give me that again.
Seniors 60 and over or veterans is 8,638. That's just in fiscal year 25.
Okay, and what about the work group? Because it looked like the work group was the highest.
So I don't know how they code themselves, but if in most cases they would be considered a general fare, and that's 18,163. Now that doesn't mean they're all going to work. Okay? They will board and go wherever they want. This is the complete list of all the origins and destinations, about 8 pages, 11 by 17. I've got every single trip for fiscal year 25. They go different places, and we're very happy to accommodate them.
Right. Okay, great. That's my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Laura.
Well, if anybody can track down dollars for public transit, it's going to be you, Christine. It's amazing your passion for the topic and always like going over this with you. When you talked about the ADA eligibility, that certification process, I know there have been discussions in the past about moving something to the West Valley. Has that ever come to fruition?
Mayor, Councilmember Kano, thank you. We can do pop-up certification if we set it up in advance, we can work with Valley Metro to provide that accommodation, probably right here at GSQ. This is ideal. We would have to put the word out that this is happening, and then they would probably only be able to support about a dozen people in one day, and then a dozen people the next, and that's hoping that everybody shows up.
Right.
So yes, we could do it. The other question about whether there's going to be a facility out here, Valley Metro is working on identifying a West Valley operations facility. There is not one out here right now, and that is why when you do an ADA eligibility assessment, a vehicle comes to you, picks you up, and brings you down to Phoenix free. You go through that eligibility course, and then that same vehicle brings you home for free. So the accommodation is made. Vice Mayor has brought up more than one occasion. She's absolutely right. You know, these are vulnerable individuals. We want to try to accommodate them as best we can, as close to our location as we can. And Valley Metro is very, very aware of that. So we hope I can tell you that a West Valley facility is several years away. I will be retired. But the reality is we can, if we need to, do a remote eligibility assessment and open it up to whoever needs it. We could certainly do that.
Okay, good. I know there had been discussions, so it's good to hear that that's, I know Vice Mayor would be all over that, so that's good news. Thank you for elaborating on the possible collaboration with Valley Metro. It sounds very promising. It's good that, I think microtransit is really the way of the future. I mean, one day we'll have Waymos out here driving around, I'm sure. Don't know when, but I may have missed this in your presentation, but did you cover the WeRide estimated costs for this year, fiscal year, and the next fiscal year? I know it's in the council report, but just wonder if you would cover that cost, the estimated cost.
Is yours different from? Yeah, that's right. So fiscal year 26 is 1.6 million.
Okay, very good.
And 27 is 1.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Fiscal year 26 is 1,614,000. Fiscal year 27 is 1,644,000.
Okay, so it's somewhat in the ballpark of each other, I'm sure, adjusted for inflation and such. But just want to point out, we did $1 billion budget for the first time, and our spending on social services or human services really in our city is pretty minimal. Every year, our committee, we give out $214,000 to nonprofits who provide food, clothing, a lot of essential services to our residents. Rather than staffing up for social services, we engage those who are doing those direct services. So when you look overall what our expenditures are for a city our size, a growing city our size, I feel like these costs are in line. So thank you very much.
Well, we talk about this all the time, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox because they know how I feel down at Valley Metro, and I'm very, very, very vocal about how the west side is like a stepchild. We're the last ones to get anything, but now they're starting to listen to us and realize that we're growing so fast and we have such a need out here. The thing that I'm interested in is I have been on the phone probably 30, 40 times now with the Department of Transportation in DC, making friends with everybody so that whenever the money is available, we're going to have a pipeline on how to apply, when to get it, what we can do. Because we have wanted to do some type of paratransit since the 2000s. I mean, this is not a new subject. It just took us a long time to be able to figure out how to provide it and have it safely for our residents. Now, Christine, I met with a service provider at the league meeting in August, and then I need to talk with you about it. They're very interested in talking to us about possibly maybe coming into the Goodyear, Avondale area to provide additional rides for seniors or whatever. Some of these are not just for seniors, though. We have adults who have macular degeneration. We have adults who have other physical disabilities. They need to ride because they cannot drive. So we're not gearing just for the seniors to provide this service for. And at our last Valley Metro meeting, we had some folks come in and say, you know, I am I'm legally blind, and I call and make a reservation for Dial a Ride or whatever, We Ride, whatever, and it tells me to press 1 to make a reservation. I can't see 1 on my phone.
Right.
So I have to hang up, and I can't get a ride. So we need to, as an industry, figure out how we're going to accommodate those people. Because as our residents age, they're going to have more disabilities. And if we are going to provide this service, we need to be able to provide it for everyone, not just the select who need to run to work or go to school. And also, I'm always going to be asking for us to enlarge the service area. I will say that till I'm dead, because there's just so much of the population we're missing.
Right.
And I know we have to do it with Avondale, but I'd like to see us sometime be a standalone, that we take care of our own residents ourselves and we get them where they need to go.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That was very powerful at Valley Metro, wasn't it, when those sight
Oh,
impaired
yes.
folks? That
It
was
broke my
tremendous.
heart.
It really
Broke
was
my heart.
powerful. And some of their complaints were generated or were directed at the Northwest cities because they operate their own dial-a-ride.
Yes, they do.
And so the integration of AI is really what they, I think, had something to do with why they were upset. But I understand from the meeting that was held while the board meeting was going on, they had a meeting with these
them,
folks.
yes.
And I believe that they were able to make a lot of improvements to how those folks were going to be able to get rides.
That's
You're
really
right.
important. And one of the persons said they took me to the doctor and I waited 4.5 hours to get picked up to go home. That's
I know,
terrible.
I know, it
That's
is.
terrible.
It's painful,
Very painful. And they had no one else to call.
right?
So that alone we have to address. But we have to really talk to MAG, and we're going to rely on our mayor to do that, since he is on the MAG board, that we get our fair share.
We're working on
We
it.
have to have our fair share. And we need our fair share of 479. We didn't get Prop 400 because we cut ourselves out whenever we built the freeway
Right.
for 20 years. So we didn't get any of that money. But nobody remembers us not getting that money. They just want to know why we couldn't do more.
Right.
So we really need to be a player in it this time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Trey, did you have something else? You good? All right, I think we've got it covered. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate all the effort, and I appreciate the data, especially like Trey with that kind of stuff. So anything you
A
keep the
lot
cost
more.
down? I know, I'm sure you do. So with that, no further business to discuss. We're going to adjourn this meeting, but we're going to have 10 minutes for them to reset up, okay? So give them about 10 minutes.